Spider's back right away. He's going to talk about what's going on with the CFL and why the CFL is in the shape it is in 2023 and the worst year I've ever seen for competitiveness in teams. Actually 70%, I'm going right into this, 70% of the teams, okay, in the CFL, first time ever, are non-competitive. There's only 3 teams, okay? There's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, okay? The top team, and well, they're tied with BC Lions, okay? Winnipeg will probably win out. And then you have the Toronto Argonauts are the best team in the CFL, but we're talking about 2 divisions here. I like to see 1 division, I'll tell you the truth, for many reasons. I think everybody would like to. Because I think the teams would have to be a lot more competitive. But the problem is recruiting players now, and with the Canadian ratio, I'm going to get into that. But you got 3 teams. You got the Toronto Argonauts, have the best record in the league. You have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the BC Lions tied, okay? And the rest of the teams are not good teams. None of them. Now, maybe the Montreal Alouettes you could put up there a bit, but they, you know, other than that, and Hamilton's playing better, but other than that, I mean, Montreal, I mean, they have a chance. For sure, they're going to beat Hamilton in the playoffs because they get home field advantage. They're going to beat them. They're better. And Boliev on Mitchell coming back is not going to do it. He's going to throw interceptions. They're going to lose. And Montreal possibility could upset Toronto Argonauts because the Argonauts are playing games that don't mean anything, and then Saskatchewan's going to get in with sorry Calgary. You don't deserve to get in because you only won 5 games this year. Saskatchewan's going to get in because they're going to beat Toronto next week. Not that they can, it's because they're going to give it to them because Dewey, the coach of the Toronto Argonauts said they're going to, the Saskatchewan will offer a game that Saskatchewan has to win to get into the playoffs. They do, they're in. They're going to be playing like a preseason game, so they're not going to play any of their best players on defense and offense or the quarterback, so they're all going to be back up. So Saskatchewan Roughriders will win that game and they'll get clobbered, they should, by BC Lions, and BC will host because I think Winnipeg's going to win. Should win the West, but you never know, okay? But we'll see. Stampeders, Friday night game, I'll say something that was interesting that was on CFL Twitter news that it made me smile, be proud to be Canadian and proud to be a CFL supporter, is when there's a clipping there of a man 100 years old in his birthday on Friday Night Football that was on CFL, check it out, Twitter news, with his son, I believe it was his son, put his arm around him, and he's been season ticket holder, Stampeders season ticket holder for decades and decades, and he was there at the game. And there was a pretty good crowd there. It was cold. It was like probably 4 degrees, 5 degrees. There was a pretty good crowd there. And Stampeders shouldn't have won the game, but they won the game. Their special teams and defense, 2 touchdowns and defense won the game. But Saskatchewan Roughriders should have won the game, for sure. But let's talk about what's going on in the CFL and the shape of the CFL. This is what this is all about. 70% of the teams aren't competitive. You imagine, that's the first time ever, but there's a lot of contributing factors to this, okay? And here's what they are. Number 1, I think the biggest factor is the Canadian ratio, okay? Because the Canadian ratio, how does that attract players? And now with the NFL, the roster expansion is high, and they're putting more, including Canadian players, on that practice roster, and they're giving them really big money to be on that practice roster, and there's a Canadian ratio, and there's 30. I think there's probably 30 now players, top Canadian players playing, starting in the CFL. I mean, sorry, in the NFL, and so those players aren't playing in the CFL. The top Canadian players aren't playing in the CFL. So that's when there's a CFL Canadian draft. The top Canadian players don't even go to the combines. Because they want to go down the NFL and be signed and go to NFL camps. They're not interested in the CFL. So listen, Randy Ambrosie, and I think seriously, Randy Ambrosie, you're one of the contributing factors. I'm sorry I have to say, I don't want to be mean or anything, but you are. Everybody's saying it, and you're not popular, and everybody's saying that you've destroyed the CFL. If you compare yourself with Mark Cohen when stadiums were full, and he said that he would never go to 2-year, 1-year contracts, which you have, and you were behind. And the Canadian players want to go to the NFL as much as the American players. So it's not, and they have 465% of the vote with their controlling handcuffing, just like their Canadian ratio, that they can basically control the CFL with the Canadian Players Association, and 465 of the votes, majority of the votes, are Canadian players, and their committees made up with guaranteed Canadian racial alignment, and a lot of them that aren't even good enough to play in the CFL. As you can see, they can't protect the quarterbacks. That's why all the quarterbacks are getting injured, and they're being paid over $200,000. So there's an imbalance in salary. So that's a big problem. Randy Ambrosie, you're in bed with the Canadian Players Association because you were part of it. You actually took the CFL to court when the CFL wanted to get rid of the Canadian ratio to make CFL football played at its highest level with the best players, like every other professional football league. Okay, and you went to court, took them to court, and actually, I believe, won in court. It's unbelievable. So you're Canadian. You're actually the CFL commissioner, and you were a guaranteed Canadian racial alignment. Played for Edmonton, okay, and I believe Calgary. And that's too political. You should never have been hired. It's not. Listen, the owners have to step in, because TSN is also part of this too, and they're desperate to have programming. So they said give it everything the Canadian players want, because they're controlling the CFL, and that's why the owners aren't shutting them down. The Canadian Players Association, the Canadian players made up, because they have the majority. They need to be shut down. They need to be shut down, and the Canadian ratio has to go. The Canadian ratio is killing the CFL, and that's why 70% of the teams in the CFL are getting less and less competitive. The worst year it ever had because of Canadian ratio, and it's because it's worse now. It's not 7, it's 8, and that's a big factor too, because you have to back up for that, so it's even worse. Okay, and there's actually the roster. They increased the roster. There's more Canadian players that guaranteed half, or more than half the roster had to be Canadian too, part of the Canadian roster ratio, which is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Think about that. This is why the CFL is non-competitive. 3 teams out of 9, only a 9-team league. That's how bad the Canadian ratio is. That's how bad the Canadian ratio is destroying the CFL and the quality of play and the quality of players. And they only want to practice an hour. 4 hours and a half. That's counting meetings. That's not just practice time. That's travel time. Everything. It's unbelievable. They control the CFL, and the NFL is double that. But they practice 8 hours. And this is the problem with the CFL. The Canadian players. There's 465 majority on the Canadian Players Association, run by mostly guaranteed Canadian alignment. Okay. They're destroying the CFL. They're controlling the CFL with their handcuffed and Canadian, dictating Canadian starter and Canadian roster ratio. Look, you don't even have to make the team. You're guaranteed a spot automatic. Doesn't matter if you're good enough because you have your Canadian passport. Okay, / Canadian ratio. Okay, 8 guaranteed starters. More than half, like I said, of the roster guaranteed to Canadian players. And the top Canadian players are down in the NFL and going every year and signing and quarterbacks as well. Quarterbacks too. York's down there. Guess what? Trey Ford and Edmund Escrows. I'm sorry. Trey Ford is going to go to the NFL. Okay? Okay? That's what's going to happen. Because of the 1-year contracts, and because, like, the 1-year contracts is another huge problem in the CFL. The Randy Ambrosie's behind, like I said, with the Canadian players. They want to go even more than the American players, okay? Okay? Yeah, well, look at them being signed. Look at even the quarterbacks. So Trey Ford, he tried to get in the NFL last year. He's not going to sign. And by the way, it doesn't matter what he signs. Same with Chad Kelly, signs a $450,000 deal. Close to $500,000 for 3 years, doesn't mean nothing. He can go to the NFL just like Trey Ford. Contract means nothing. Just like every contract in the CFL, including the quarterbacks. So this is why the CFL is in the shape they're in. This is why there's only come on, 70% of the teams are not competitive. This is why. And Randy Ambrosie, you're the cause of it. The Canadian ratio. The owners wanted it eliminated or reduced at least to 5, and you pushed for 8 to have it increase. The same with their Canadian roster ratio, which they have it increased, which you did, and this bullshit American nationalized like 23 staff, that's friggin' bullshit. Like, and there was they wanted to, if a Canadian ratio player that's not even good enough to be on the field, most of them, okay, starter gets hurt, they wanted to replace it with an American player. Why should they have to do that? And they wouldn't allow that, but why should they have to do that? Why can't the best players play? Start in the CFL like every other professional sport league. Why can't they play? No, oh no, it's the only league you can't. Can you imagine if the NHL had this format? Can you imagine this? Or any professional league had this format? Where they, imagine, Calgary can't even, like last game, and all the CFL teams, especially Calgary with all their injuries most they ever had, they can't play their best players. They have to sit them. They have to play. They even made trade to get. They even got rid of American players to bring in Canadian college players from that were drafted that are playing Canadian college last week to fill the Canadian ratio. It's so bad, they have to get rid of American players to do it. It's unbelievable. Look, you're being lied to about it. Oh yeah, Randy Ambrosie goes on and says, oh yeah, look, you know, his hash mark rule. What a joke! What a joke! No one even talks about it. Even in college, U.S. college Canadian football, they don't even have it. They have the what? They don't have the narrow hash marks. They think it's a joke. And by the way, you notice in the games recently, what's happening? All these little sideways passes because of narrow hash marks, right? For interceptions, it's so much easier to intercept. They're even smaller passes to the side. It's unreal. He said it was going to be the greatest rule ever in the CFL. It would be the biggest ever, and it will make CFL three-down football more popular, the biggest and most best professional brand of football in the world. But you know what? My CFL Red Zone will. My CFL Red Zone will, Randy Ambrosie, that you're jealous of. That the CFL's and the people on, I hate to say it, on the CFL Rules Committee are jealous of, or you didn't even present it like you said you were going to present it. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out. Because it blows your smoking hash mark. You must have been on hash when you put that. You're shoving. What are you doing? Blowing smoke in? Yes, yeah. That's a good one. Blowing smoke. That's what it is. It's gimmicky. It's like Mark Trustman said. It's such a minor little alteration. It's not even needed. It'll make it even worse. Okay, it did make it worse. There's more 2 and outs because it's more easier to intercept. Okay, like that's what happened in Calgary with judging the test because of narrow hash marks. It was a little tiny short. You picked it off like nothing. Okay, it's unbelievable. The hash mark is an absolute joke. My CFL Red Zone rule will blow it out of the water. Blow your hash mark and your hash pipe smoke out, Randy Ambrosie. Blow it out of the water, okay? Blow your hash mark smoke, hash mark rule out, okay? Okay, oh my God, like it'll destroy, like it'll kill it, kill it. It's a 10 million times better, okay? Rule 10 million times. There's not even any contest here. It's an absolute joke, and that's why you're jealous of it, and because of ego, and because it blows your hash mark, stupid little gimmicky little hash out of the water. My CFL Red Zone rule. Come on. It has 10 super features and benefits and advantages. It has an 18% guarantee of 50 more touchdowns scored in the red zone. Okay? It's like on and on and on. Go on my SPYDER CFL Red Zone rule Facebook page, okay? All right? Go on my SPYDER CFL Red Zone rule. My latest presentation's all there. Okay, and not only from the entertainment value side, what we'll do, okay, and like the drama and the red zone and the excitement it would create to be unbelievable. Make our game way better for many reasons, and not only from the entertainment value side, but from the business side as well. And by the way, there are things that happen like last weekend that even like it's there every CFL game. Okay, there was a game where. CFL team with like 6 or 10 seconds left, okay? They had to kick a field goal in third, or it was like it went down to 4-7-3. They didn't have enough time to try or gamble on third down, and they're right down the 5 or 3 yard line, so they had to kick an easy little chip field goal. By the way, with my CFL Red Zone rule implemented, right? they could go for it. Because with 3 seconds, okay, because it'd be enough time. Because if they're forced outside the red zone third down, they lose the Spider CFL red zone rule kick. And that's part of my, which is another enforcement rule, part of my CFL red zone rule. They would still get my Spider CFL red zone rule kick if they weren't forced outside and third down and maintained possession of the ball, didn't turn it over. So the clock wouldn't be, even with 2 seconds left or 1 second, they could go for it. That's a big feature. Also, a lot of times when they're down close to the red zone, on third down they kick another easy chip shot field all the time. But if my CFL red zone rule was in play, was wisely adopted by the CFL, they'd be going for it on third down to get in the red zone. You know why? Because they'd be playing exciting 3-down football to score a touchdown in the red zone with my Spider CFL red zone rule, knowing that if they came up short, if third down was needed, if they weren't and maintaining possession of the ball, they would still get my Spider CFL red zone rule kick. But a challenging kick from the 35, you add some from the 42, which it should be from the 42, not the 35. Make it more, more exciting, add more drama, because the 42 is a more challenging kick. And where it's enforcement rule and so forth, and where they get the bonus kick, right? And by the way, it's not 4 downs. So it's an enforcement rule. My CFL red zone rule. They can't fake and go for a touchdown. They have to kick. My CFL red zone rule will kick from the 35, add the 7 from the 42. Okay, it's a great part of my rule. But also, I noticed in watching the CFL this weekend that so many 2-and-outs, like Calgary had like so many 2-and-outs, like they were talking like 9 2-and-outs, I think, in one half or something. It was just absolutely brutal. But those 2-and-outs that Randy Ambrosi said with his hash mark were a little gimmicky little hash mark, was an absolute joke, that no one even mentions it. It's a joke. Said, oh, they would eliminate a lot of the 2-and-outs. What do you mean there's more 2-and-outs? Because they're trying more, even shorter plays and shorter passes because the narrow hash mark, okay, because it allows for even shorter passes to the end. It's unbelievable. You've got to be kidding me. By the way, but my CFL red zone rule implemented, made part of a CFL 3-down game, which, hey, like Ron Vanstone said, there's so much ammo to prove why my CFL red zone rule in 2021 deserves to be made part of a CFL 3-down game. There's so much ammunition there. It's like, and can you imagine also having Steve Armitage, 27 Grey Cups. He's a legend. He's a sports icon in Canada, and so is Rob Vanstone, is a leader post writer for riders and sports writer as well. He's now working for the Saskatchewan Riders. He's an icon too. He wrote the author of the famous, I thought famous game, 1989 Grey Cup game, Saskatchewan Roughers and Hamilton Tigers. Saskatchewan won the last play with a field goal. Okay, he wrote that book. Anyway, so far and Logi, okay, knows my CFL red zone rule. I sent him the presentation. He was blown away with it. He said if it came to a vote, he would vote to have it made part of a CFL 3-down game. So I have 3 prominent sports figures. Can you imagine that? But getting back to the games I watched, and all these 2-and-outs, there'll be a lot less 2-and-outs, because you know why? Because CFL players, CFL teams, like the end of the game, okay, in Calgary last weekend. And by the way, you see that the man that had his 100th birthday with his son, CFL Twitter. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier or not. If I did, I'm sorry repeating it. But he stood up with his son. Yeah, I think I did mention it. But yeah, I did. But I'll mention it again. So watch it. But anyway, all those 2-and-outs, a lot of them be not like Randy Ambrosi, the Hashberg. It actually increases 2-and-outs, and the facts are there to prove it. But with my CFL red zone rule, my God, you'd see way more bigger plays, like you saw, a 55-yard pass, okay, Mayer made at the end of the game, and they got into a position like on the 5 or the 3 for a touchdown, okay, and that was a big part of their win. They went for it, right? They went for it. They went for a big play. You'd see a lot big plays like that. Okay. At every spot on the CFL field, anywhere's in the CFL field, you'd see big plays like that all over, because they would know knowing that if they got into the red zone and were near the red zone, and they would probably go for it in third down to get in the red zone, that they'd be playing exciting CFL 3-down football with Spider CFL red zone rule. And of course, knowing that if they made possession of the keep possession of the ball, okay, on third down, and don't fumble, don't turn it over, don't get pushed outside the red zone. That gets by a CFL red zone rule kick from the 42, of course, if you add the 7. But anyway, so that's why you'd see way bigger plays in the CFL. A lot of big passing plays like that, 55, even longer, 65, 70. And by the way, that's what the Randy Ambrosi said was going to happen with his hash mark rule, his hash mark gimmicky little alteration, little rule. He said that you got to see way bigger plays for touchdown. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What a snow job. What a snow job. My CFL Red Zone rule, Randy Ambrosi and the CFL Rules Committee will blow your hash mark rule out of the water. Blow your hash mark pipe, smoking hash mark rule out of the water. Okay? Okay? Look, go on my Facebook page, my full presentation there. I'm going to advertise it again, and you'll see my full presentation, and you'll see all the 10 super features and benefits, all the advantages, not only from the entertainment but from the business side, the 18% guarantee, and more. All to prove why my CFL Red Zone rule should be made part of a CFL 3-down game. It's a winner. It's a winner. It's a game changer. And these are the reasons that the CFL, let's go over them again. The Canadian ratio needs to go. You got to be allowed the best available players to play in the CFL. Okay, you can't be handcuffed or dictated to by Canadian ratio and have half your roster Canadian when almost 70% of the teams aren't competitive. So a lot of those players aren't good enough to play in the CFL. And an 8 starter, not 7 out, 8 guaranteed Canadian starter ratio. And a lot of them aren't good enough to play. You can see a lot of the receivers aren't good enough to play. A lot of Canadian linemen aren't good enough to play. And that's why the CFL quarterbacks are getting seriously hurt and injured. And that's why you're seeing so many 2-and-outs. And that's why you're seeing the quality game of the CFL football that with the best players of my Spider Super Red Zone rule would be so much better. Because CFL 3-down football would be played at the highest level with the best available players, okay, without the handcuffs and dictating Canadian ratio, okay, and with the best rule ever in the history of the CFL, the most innovative, okay, the most that's full of drama, the most entertaining, that's full of drama, most exciting, and the biggest rule ever adopted by the CFL and probably all of CFL 3-down football. Because you know why? Because in the NFL, when you get in the red zone, you get a first down with 4 downs. It's way too many downs. It's too easy. It's a joke. You could and you can't even throw the ball. You have to underhand the ball. In the CFL, you're on the 5-yard line. You're throwing like a 35 or a 40 in the corner. Okay, in the end zone for a big play, for a big pass. Okay, so but the problem in the CFL. With too many 2-and-outs, too many 2-down football stops in the red zone, way too many for resulting in way too many boring, distasteful, predictable, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals in the red zone, which my CFL red zone will eliminate completely, remarkably eliminate completely. 2 downs or 2 fewer downs. So the ideal with my enforcement rule, my CFL red zone enforcement rule would be 3 downs. So the ideal amount of downs that you should have in the red zone to score a touchdown, which my CFL red zone rule will deliver on. My Spider CFL red zone rule, you can't take that Spiders away. Like Duncan Patterson, quarterback from St. Mary's, that played a good game. They beat Acada. He's back. He was injured the first exhibition game against Bishops, and he's really behind my CFL red zone rule. I met him when they were putting the makeshift stadium at St. Mary's touchdown line. And he's blown away by it. And anyway, he played a good game, but. Like he says, don't take Spiders away. He said that's a big hit. That'd really sell it, because for the younger generations, they'd love that. Don't take Spiders away with your Martini Y. Keep Spiders CFL red zone rule. So, which my Spiders CFL red zone rule will eliminate completely. Okay, the 2 biggest killers, 2 biggest turnoffs in the red zone. 2-down football. Okay, unappealing, boring. Okay, 2-down football stops in the red zone, resulting in more boring, predictable, okay, distasteful, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals. Just like my banner there. Remarkably, completely eliminated my Spider CFL red zone rule, okay? And with my / CFL red zone rule kick, okay, added to it. That adds a lot to my CFL red zone rule. That really makes it like, you know, like practically 100% foolproof, because I like the way it plays out in zone. But I do have provision called my spiders, it's in my presentation, okay, optional provision part, that, and that I would make it, I say 10, but now I would change it and make it 20 seconds. You could use it in the last 20 seconds of the first half, but that would have to be decided on, or for sure the last 20 seconds of the game, because you use it to tie the game or to win the game, and you'd have the option to, you could kick a field goal. I think that optional provision part should be probably added to my CFL red zone rule with my CFL red zone rule kick to make it 100% foolproof. But I know I sort of like, the reason I put it as an optional provision rule part of my CFL red zone rule that could be added or made into the rule is because I like the way it plays out on zone. But that would make it 100% foolproof, you know, rather than 98%. So it's there, and it you know, then you know, there's no way they couldn't adopt it. Okay, it would make it 100% foolproof. But I went over. Okay, let's talk about the 1-year contracts are killing the CFL. Hugely. Imagine all the quarterbacks. Trey Ford's not going to be, he's going to be in the NFL. Same York, he went, and any other Canadian quarterback comes up, they're going to be in the NFL. That's the problem. The 1-year contracts need to go. Like Mark Cohen said, you never would allow it. It's got to be a minimum of 2. They got to stay in the CFL or see you later. Okay? The Canadian ratio has to go. The starter ratio has to go. The Canadian handcuffing starter ratio and the Canadian handcuffing, huge, more than half the roster ratio has to go to allow the best available players to start in the CFL. They got to go at least 6.5 hours a day for practice and meeting sessions. They have to do that. Okay, they got to bring in my CFL red zone rule. Will it be the biggest rule, okay, ever adopted, okay, in the CFL, in the history of the CFL, and probably the biggest rule in all of professional football because of what it will remarkably do. Okay, that you can find on my full presentation on my Spider CFL Red Zone Rule Facebook page. Anyway, it's hard to get this all in. This is a tough gig, but I tried my best. Okay, it's all off the tongue of my lips. See you later, Spider, Spider, Spider.